Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio. We are live, so do get involved in the chat and the comments. Loads of Manchester United stories to get through. We're going to be talking about the new, next, whatever you want to term it, get my words out, Manchester United manager. That's what we're going to be talking about. Are we going to see Erik Ten Hag replaced? According to some, we are. According to others, we're not. According to others, it's going to be dependent on the FA Cup final, which does seem a little bit odd to me that you're going to base a decision on one game. I know that every manager has a game which can be sort of the make or break game. We heard about it with Fergie, didn't we, at Forest back in 1990. Saw it with one or two other managers that maybe, you know, Sevilla felt like a turning point for Jose Mourinho, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the 5-0 against Liverpool. There's always a result or a game where you can feel it's just the sort of, it shifts everything and there's no return from that. But it does seem a little bit odd that Ineos, with all their planning, with all their new structure, with the people that are involved, the likes of Dan Ashworth when he arrives, the likes of Jason Wilcox, the likes of Owen Barada, of course, and Dave Brailsford, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe himself, they're going to just base it on whether Manchester United beat City in the cup final. Now, I know I've said it in the past myself. I've said, look, you know what, it might come down to that. But when you think about it, it doesn't make much sense, does it? The more I think about it, the less sense it makes. But anyway, we'll get into all that. Get involved in the comments and let us know what you think. Make sure as well you are hitting that like button, please, people. We want to get as well to 750,000 subscribers by the end of the season. So if you're not doing already, please subscribe to the channel. Now, just in terms of sort of new manager odds, there's an article here in the Manchester Evening News, and it says it talks about the sort of the next manager odds as contact with Tuchel and McKenna. Obviously, Kieran McKenna's become a very sort of hot topic at the minute with Manchester United. Done really well at Ipswich. Was at Manchester United. He's been linked with returning to the club as the manager. We'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. But you can see here, if I scroll down, the next Man United manager odds. You've got Tuchel at 7-4, Potter at 5-2, De Zerbi at 4-1. You've then got Potter again at 6-1. That's good, isn't it? So if you prefer, I mean, I'm not a gambler by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll probably take the 6-1 over the 5-2 if I'm going to bet on Graham Potter. I think that makes more sense. Well, I don't know, each to their own, but you may as well take the better odds if you can get them. Frank at 6-1, McKenna at 8-1, Zidane at 12-1. Now, I'm going to stick my neck out here and say I think you can discount Zinedine Zidane. I don't think he's coming to Manchester United. Listen, I know he's been a very successful manager. I think it'd be a bit of a stretch and a struggle for him to come here and basically rebuild Manchester United, which is what's needed. So I don't think that's happening. Thomas Frank, possibly. McKenna, I don't see it happening yet. We'll get into that a little bit more, but I don't see it happening yet. De Zerbi, I don't think it'll happen. I think he's sort of lost a little bit of his lustre over the last few months. I don't think Brighton ended the second half of the season was nearly as good as the first half, and I just don't see that one happening. Potter, there's been this talk that he's got links to Ineos, that they know him and all the rest of it. Can't see it happening. Tuchel, I can understand why he's the favourite. Very successful manager, has won 2 Champions Leagues, I think. He's won 2 Champions Leagues, hasn't he? He's won a Champions League with Chelsea. Sorry, he's not won 2, I'm talking rubbish. He won a Champions League with Chelsea and he got to the final with PSG, didn't he? That's what he did. Getting it wrong. A good manager. Didn't have a great season, if we're being honest, at Bayern Munich. Not winning the Bundesliga and not winning it by some margin when you're the manager of Bayern Munich ain't a good look. I know they did all right in Europe, but again, even in Europe, you feel like they could have got past Real Madrid. Tuchel taking off Harry Kane, not a great move. Last season, they won it on the last day, only because Dortmund threw it away as well. So his time at Bayern Munich hasn't been great. Did well at Chelsea, winning the Champions League, can't ignore that. Fantastic. Did well at Dortmund and did relatively well at PSG as well. So kind of makes sense, that one for me, Tuchel. Whether Manchester United are going to go for someone, though, who it feels like he's in a little bit of decline. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the comments. Do you think that Tuchel is the answer? Do you think that Potter's the answer? Do you think that McKenna's the answer? Do you think Erik Ten Hag should be given more time or will be given more time? I don't know what's going on here. Santa Notch says, to be fair, Howson won more trophies this season than Klopp. Okay, yeah, I was with Stephen House at the weekend. We won a trophy there. There's only 2 Potters also, says Santa Notch. Paulie LC says the second one is Harry Potter. I thought it was Brian Potter. That clears that up as well. What else have we got for you? Right, let's talk a little bit about McKenna. Brighton apparently want Kieran McKenna. He's in demand, isn't he? Okay, Kieran McKenna. It says here, Brighton pushing to complete deal for Ipswich Town manager Kieran McKenna. Now, that would make sense to me. they've done well with managers, Brighton, haven't they? Because Chris Hughton did a good job there, and then when they got rid of Chris Hughton, a lot of people were going, why have you done that? He's kept you in the Premier League. That's a successful season. Seems a bit odd to get rid of him, but I think they wanted to play more expansive football, and they brought in Graham Potter, and he did that. He was a bit of a find, wasn't he, Graham Potter? Wasn't on the top of everyone's list. Did really well. I think they finished 16th in his first season, and then his second season, I think, was 8th. De Zerbi comes in, again, does very well. High finish in his first season, mid-table finish in his second season. Football, very good as well, by the way. Playing great football. Finding these bargains. I know it's not all down to the manager, but a good setup there. They do tend to get these little gems, don't they? And then move them on. I don't know whether that's what's annoyed De Zerbi a little bit, whether he's just feeling like, we're constantly selling, we're not replacing some of these players in an adequate fashion. I don't know. But it does feel like when a manager has had enough, it's usually transfers that are the key. I think Joe Smith was mentioning this on the podcast the other day, and I agree with him. So I don't know what's going on there. However, Kieran McKenna done very well at Ipswich, back-to-back promotions, taking him to the Premier League. If you're Kieran McKenna, would going to Brighton make more sense for you? If you go to Brighton now, the chances are you'll stay in the Premier League. I think even if Kieran McKenna doesn't quite live up to expectations, I think he can still keep Brighton in the Premier League. I think there will be at least 3 teams worse than Brighton next season. Will he keep Ipswich in the Premier League? I don't know. It's tough, isn't it? We saw it this season. Look at all the teams that got relegated this season. You get promoted, you go back down. It feels like that is what happens because it's just the gulf between the Championship and the Premier League. It's just so big. The money and everything else, it's hard. And some of these teams come up, they take a gamble on certain players, big money signings that don't work out for them. They try and bring in that bit of Premier League experience. Sometimes you get players that are surplus to requirements, other clubs that can do a job for you. I think Ross Barkley did a job for Luton. I know they went down, but I think he did a very good job. Other times you get players that are surplus to requirements at other clubs for a reason. When you look at someone like Tom Davies at Sheffield United, or I think was it James Trafford? Was it the kid that Burnley bought from City? You take a bit of a punt and it just doesn't work out. So I think it's probably better for Kieran McKenna's career if he went to Brighton, but he's probably got a lot of loyalty to Ipswich. He's taken them up twice, and he might want to sort of stay for their Premier League journey. He might say, look, if I stay in the Premier League, I've got you to the Premier League, I want to at least have one season in the Premier League with you guys. Don't know, we'll have to wait and see, because sometimes, if you take a team up and that team gets relegated, you don't lose too much of your reputation. You don't lose, you don't get sort of dismissed as a good manager. Look at Rob Edwards at Luton. I think people still rate him. Look at Vincent Kompany at Burnley. Vincent Kompany at Burnley has been linked with a Bayern Munich job, and he's just been relegated. That shows you how, I know obviously his career as a player has probably helped as well, but that shows you that he's still held in high regard despite being relegated. Because people look at it and they go, well, promoted teams are always going to struggle. Ryan Leach says Bayern finished third in a one-horse race. I forgot about that. Akash K says McKenna needs to be ruthless. Brian Casey says, morning Jay, can we please talk about the crazy comparison of Klopp to Obama and Martin Luther King by Ron Draper? Most shocking take I've ever heard. I've not seen that. Sure, it wasn't by Ron Burgundy. That's ridiculous. I mean, comparing Klopp to Martin Luther King. What? I'll have to have a look at that. I've not seen that. I'd say I hope you're joking, but I presume you're not, because some of the absolute nonsense I've seen spouted about Jurgen Klopp, and that sort of par for the course. Only 71 likes to Stephanie Griffiths, or 71 likes, thumbs up. Can we have some more likes, please, people? There's almost 1,000 people watching. Let's hit that like button. Just on McKenna, while we're on it. There's an article in the Evening News. It says Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has told Manchester United why to appoint Kieran McKenna. So I think these are old quotes from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. These are quotes that he's spoken about Kieran McKenna. And if I can just sort of scroll down. He said, Kieran was a surprise to me when I got to United. Michael Carrick, I already knew. We've been approached by Sir Alex from the old school. Kieran was not. He's the most thorough and analytical, step-by-step, process-driven coach that I've worked with. He makes it so easy for the players to see and understand what we wanted from them. He'd do that the day before the game, and his memory was also fantastic. His eye for detail too. That's the kind of thing you need. I think sometimes you can get a little bit bogged down. People can be sort of over tactical, if you will, but when you can break things down and make it simple and players can understand it and they can carry out those instructions, it's usually the recipe for a very good coach, and it seems that's what Kieran McKenna is capable of. And listen, the stats speak for themselves. Back-to-back promotions. Let's not forget as well, when the wheels came off for Ole On McKenna, a lot of people said, get rid of Kieran McKenna, get rid of Michael Carrick, they're rubbish, what do they do? And I remember saying this at the time, like, you don't know what they do. Unless you're in that dressing room, unless you're Kieran McKenna or one of the Manchester United players, or maybe Ole On McKenna, you don't know what the coaches do. There's always this sort of thing where fans will look at the coaches when things are going wrong and either credit them, or when things are going wrong and either hammer them or give them credit when things are going right. Do you remember Marcus Rashford was scoring loads of goals and everyone went, oh, it's Benny McCarthy that? Says who? Who's told you that? How's you worked that one out? What's Benny McCarthy doing? Telling Marcus Rashford how to finish? Like, it might be helping him, it might not be. So is it Benny McCarthy's fault that Marcus Rashford's had a bad season? You don't know, do you? I think one thing you can tell from a manager or coach how good he is when he's the manager, when he goes to a club and manages. And that's what Kieran McKenna's done. And he's done phenomenally well. I don't think anyone expected that when he took over at Ipswich, 2 years later, they'd be in the Premier League. Hamish Morrison says, morning, Jay. I think Rio doesn't want to say he wants Erik Ten Hag sacked, but watching his videos and interaction with Tuchel, I personally think he rates him over Erik Ten Hag. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Mick Holohan says, hi Jay, and morning to the chat. Stephanie Griffith says, 96 likes. Can we go and get Zidane or Jose, says Lightning Guy. I don't think Jose Mourinho is coming back. Should we talk about Rio Ferdinand's comments about Erik Ten Hag? Erik Ten Hag will be sacked by Man United regardless of whether his side win or lose Saturday's FA Cup final, says Rio Ferdinand as pundit lambasts squad's lack of identity. So Rio Ferdinand, he thinks that basically Erik Ten Hag is done. He doesn't think the result on Saturday will make a blind bit of difference. He's speaking on his 5 podcast. He says, the more and more I think about it, win or lose, I don't think Ten Hag will be there come next season. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying what I believe is going to happen, and I believe that the club are going to look elsewhere, I think. Rio might have a point here. Now listen, that's his opinion. I don't know if he's got any information. Rio Ferdinand, listen, we all love Rio Ferdinand, absolute legend, and I give, a lot of credit and praise to anyone that can work with Stephen Howson every week. But he has been a bit patchy with some of his news stories, hasn't he? Not to cast aspersions on a Manchester United legends, but we all remember the video about, Qatar are going to take over any time soon, and then next thing you know, Sir Jim Ratcliffe did. So I'm not saying he knows, but he might have a little bit of insight. I don't know. I think he has, had conversations with people at Manchester United. We'll have to wait and see whether it's true. I just think from a logical point of view, the more I think about it, the more I think a decision has already been made, one way or the other. I don't think the FA Cup final... Let's put it this way. You could be in that FA Cup final, right? For example. Let's say an FA Cup final, first minute, Rodri goes in for a challenge, he's late, VAR look at it, they would send him off. City at that 10 men, right? Yeah. Then they hit the post 5-6 times. Andre Onana has the game of his life. United get a debatable penalty and we score and we win 1-0. Is that it then? Right, that's it. Based on that, and don't get me wrong, I'll take that. If you offer me that right now, I would 100% snap your hand off. Right, we're going to keep Erik Ten Hag based on that game. Or would you say we were very lucky to win that game? It doesn't make much sense to base what you're going to do for the future Manchester United Football Club on one game. I know it's a big game because it's a game where you can win a trophy. It's a game where you can get into the Europa League. Don't forget, that could be a big point that the owners are looking at. But would you just say, right, okay, that's it now, Erik Ten Hag keeps his job? Or the reverse could happen. You could have a game where United have shot after shot after shot, and Edison or whoever's in goal, it might be the other kid, Ortega. Is it Ortega? I can't remember. Is it Ortega, the other keeper for say? Whoever's in goal anyway for him, as the game of his life. And we have a few decisions that go against us, and it goes to penalties and we lose on penalties. For God's sake, I couldn't say that. Would that be it then? You go, okay, well, we lost on penalties, Erik Ten Hag's got to go. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do you think it will be based on the FA Cup final? Do you think it should be? That's a bigger question, isn't it? Should United be making a decision based on one game? Listen, I said this earlier, one game can make a difference in your career. One game can be the breaking point or the game that saves you as a manager. It's happened at Manchester United a lot of times. A lot of people say that Ole On McKenna, had he won that Europa League final against Villarreal would have kept his job the following season because he would have had a trophy in the bank and people would have gone, listen, let's just stick with him a bit longer. People say Sir Alex Ferguson lost to Nottingham Forest in 1990, that he would have lost his job. It's been denied by people like Martin Edwards and what have you afterwards, but the sort of the talk around the campfire was that he was done if United got knocked out of the FA Cup. So I understand that. It just seems a bit odd to me that you're going to, after everything you've seen as well this season, you've had lots of time to make your decision. They took over in what? On Christmas, was it Christmas Eve? Ineos came in. They've had all that time, almost 6 months, to look at Erik Ten Hag, look at the squad, look at what's going on, to speak to him. They've had conversations with him. They can find out what he thinks, what's going on here, why are these results going against us. He can sort of explain himself a little bit. And they're going to base their decision just on the FA Cup final. I don't think that's true. I don't know. Let's have a look in the comments, see what everyone else is saying. Let me know what you think as well. Stephanie Griffith says, winning cup could be launchpad to beat the cheats long term. Luke Bailey says, if you can't get the team motivated for an FA Cup final, then that's not a good look. Harry David, as Joe said, is the UK version of Curb Your Enthusiasm. If they want to sack him, but will keep him if he wins the FA Cup, I think that's fair. If they like him, want him to stay, but will only keep him if he wins the FA Cup, that's mental. One Carry says, one bad season and y'all want him gone. I don't want him gone. I'd give him another season. I said that. Do you know what, though? There was a real good point that Ronaldo Brown made on the podcast yesterday, and I think he got it from Upper And they were saying, basically, United need to make a decision on Erik Ten Hag, whether to give him a contract extension or get rid of him, because giving him one more year is counterproductive. That doesn't make any sense, because then if he fails in that year, is that it? Or if you give him a long-term contract, you say, look, we'll give you a contract extension. You've got 3 years now to get this stuff together. I'm not going to swear because it's the morning. Get your stuff together. That makes more sense than just going, let's just see what happens till Christmas or whatever. Because then you're almost wasting another season. And Manchester United, when we have sacked managers during the season, it hasn't ended well that season. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer started brilliantly when he took over from Jose Mourinho. We finished 6th. Ralph Rangnick, although I liked him in press conferences, was a complete disaster as an interim manager. Or caretaker manager, whatever you want to call it. I always get them mixed up. So it hasn't worked out well when Manchester United have changed manager during the season. So if you're going to go, well, let's see where we are at Christmas, are you just writing off that season? I don't think we can afford to keep doing that. We've written off so many seasons over the past sort of 4 or 5 years. It's really bad. The England squad is getting announced later on today at 1 o'clock. The provisional squad. I think it's a provisional one of 30. And then it'll be down to 26, is it? Is that how it works? So, obviously, there's a United interest here. We're looking at Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho. Don't forget, he's still a Manchester United player. Now, the sort of smart money would be on, if he's fit, Harry Maguire making the squad. I don't know what the levels of his fitness are, though. This is the sort of the big question. Get involved in the chat and the comments and let me know whether you expect Harry Maguire to make it, if he's going to be fit for the Euros, because I think if he is, he'll be on the plane. Then you've got Jadon Sancho. Got to a Champions League final. I don't think that's enough for him. I don't think he'll make the squad. I don't. He's not really been one of Gareth Southgate's fancied players, has he? I know he played him a little bit in the Euros, and obviously brought him on for that penalty, but he's barely played for England under Gareth Southgate, and I don't think he's done enough, despite that performance in the first leg of the semi-final, to warrant inclusion in the England squad. I don't. And also, there's been obviously, the 2/3 of the season has been a complete disaster for him. So I'd be surprised if Jadon Sancho's on the plane. Luke Shaw's injuries in it. Is he fit? I think if he's fit, he makes it. I think if he's fit, he's still England's best left back. I don't know if he will, though. I expect Kobbie Mainoo to be on the plane, I'll be honest with you. I think Kobbie Mainoo makes it. I do. I think he did enough in the game against Belgium, to show what he can do for England in that midfield. And I thought the midfield of him, Bellingham and Foden was fantastic. I thought that was the best performance from Phil Foden we've seen in England shirt in a long time. And if you're going to have any chance of winning silver, I think you need to get the best out of Phil Foden. And I think a Mainoo, Bellingham, Foden midfield would work well. I don't know if Kobbie Mainoo will start for England, but I think he definitely deserves to be on the plane. I know there's a lot of people pushing back on that, saying, Harvey Elliott or the kid from Crystal Palace, is Adam Wharton. they deserve to be in over him. But for me, I think Kobbie Mainoo did enough when he got his England opportunity. He had a very good cameo against Brazil, and he had player of the match performance against Belgium. So why wouldn't he make the play? I think he should do. Marcus Rashford's the big talking point. Is he going to make the play? Should he? He's fit again now. He obviously played against Brighton. He came on as a sub. Do you pick him? Not had a great season, has he? 8 goals, I think, in 42 games. 7, I think, in the Premier League. Is that enough for him to make Gareth Southgate's squad? I'm not so sure. Gareth Southgate does send... It's weird with Rashford because he likes him to a point where he'll include him in his squad and have him, bring him off the bench, and he'll start him in certain games. But when push comes to shove, is he my guy? Does he start in my big games? No. He didn't start in the quarter-final for the World Cup despite being England's joint top goal scorer, and I think that was a mistake. And I think that indicated that Gareth Southgate doesn't quite fancy him. So, will he give an opportunity now? I'm not so sure. Get involved in the chat and comments. Here's a better question for United fans is, do you want him to be in that squad? Do you think that's going to help him? Just from a United point of view. And I know there's a lot of people out there, even United fans, who don't like Marcus, who want rid of him, who, hammer him quite a lot. But I still like Marcus Rashford. I want him to be a success, and I want him to be a success at Manchester United Football Club. And I don't think he's going to get sold next season. I'd be surprised if he is. I want him to come back next season and perform at the levels we have seen in the past. Last season he scored 30 goals. This season's been a bit of a disaster. We need him back to his best if Manchester United are going to move forward. And I don't know if going away with the England squad helps that. I don't. It might do. It might give him that confidence. It might, you're away with the England squad. You might have a good tournament like you did in the World Cup that kickstarts you and gets you going again. But it could have the opposite effect. You could have a tournament like you did in the Euros previously where you miss a penalty or something doesn't go right and you have the whole country turns against you, so it seems. You've already got a bit of an up and down relationship with United fans as it is. Is that just going to make matters worse? Let me know what you think. SACKED says Rashford needs to be sold. Akash K says he's not getting in ahead of Foden or even Gordon. I don't think he'd start. But he might make the squad. He's never really started for England as a regular, has he? He's never been that guy, but he's usually made the squad. I also don't know what's going to happen with Foden because he can play down the middle, obviously can play down the left. It'd be interesting to see what Gareth Southgate does with him. But it's one of those where I'm in two minds. I really am. I think you just want players to play well for Manchester United. Tom Mills says Mainoo needs to be picked for England. I won't complain if Kobbie Mainoo was picked for England. I think he's had a very good season in a very mediocre Manchester United team. I'm going to leave it there. Make sure if you're not doing, you're already checking out all the other videos up on the channel. That's not a word. The channel. There was a Paddock podcast yesterday where we did a bit of end of season review where we looked through the campaign, the Premier League campaign, the FA Cup campaign, the Carabao campaign, the Champions League campaign, if you can even call it that, and gave it a bit of a ranking or a bit of a rating. So make sure you go and check that out. We've got more content coming up as well, including when me and Stephen Alston were in a dugout for a charity game. We managed to speak to a few people there about Manchester United as well, including Luke Littler. So that video will be out later on today. So make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. I want to get to 750,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Get that up to 750,000. And with your support, we can do it. I'm Jay Motty. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.